When you hear the words corporate culture or company culture, what comes to mind? What exactly do you visualize when you hear those words? That is what we're going to be dissecting on today's episode of Power Chat on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM and also on the Democracy Radio YouTube channel where you can see me. On Power Chat, we talk about everything that's got to do with leadership, enterprise, business, whether small, medium, or large enterprises, how to get your voice heard and get the solutions working. Welcome to this week's episode of Power Chat right here on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM, Abuja, Nigeria. Hi, my name is Uju Nwachiku, Her Vocal Majesty, and I am your host on today's episode of Power Chat. Power Chat is that show where we get thought leaders, CEO, top executives to come talk to us about the nitty-gritty that goes down when it comes to decision making that affects the lives of those that they have either as staff or as community members, etc. Today, the conversation promises to be very interesting because we're talking corporate culture. And my guest is even more interesting. He has delved into business. Well, he is deeply delved into business and he has had a few stints in media. He's basically an all-rounder, if I may say so myself. Let me introduce you to architect Ikenna Walter Okoye. He's an architect with over 25 years of experience in real estate development. He's the founder of Lilac Mers Limited, a real estate firm involved in design, supervision, project management, as well as construction here in Nigeria. He's also the founder of Access Enterprise and International Services, AEAI. It's a business consultancy. And through AEAI, he has collaborated with the organizers of the National Youth Summit, Abuja, for about 9 years, and that birthed the business coaching, the Access Business Coaching, ABC. It's an online business mentorship program, and Architect Walter's platform also provides startup grants to young Nigerians to encourage entrepreneurship. And about the media part, he is an alumni of the Eugenia Abu Media Training School, and he is the CEO, Zing Media. Welcome, Architect Walter.
Thank you very much.
It's quite interesting, from architecture to media. What do you define? Okay, you obviously come off as somebody who likes to try new things.
Yes, I actually do. And I think I realized early that I loved talking.
Yeah,
I loved, I'm a kind of a playful person. So I decided to see how I could commercialize that and put it out there.
Interesting.
And help people that need to hear some of the things I had to say.
Wow, that's cool. With the length of time you've been in business, let's talk corporate culture. What is it in the first place?
Okay, the definition is like corporate culture are the shared beliefs, the attitudes, the practices that define an organization. I like to see corporate culture like a family. You know, it's like, how do you want people to see your family? What are the things you guys want to be known for? In the future, what are the things that you want people to talk about concerning your family? You know, what defines you guys? What's the energy you want to be seen around your family? So that's how I like looking at corporate culture. When people come in contact with your organization, what do they want to live with? What impression do they want to live with? You know, among your team members, how do they want to be known to behave with each other? You know, so that's what corporate culture is really about, the defining beliefs, attitudes, behaviors of the organization. You know, that's what corporate culture is about.
Is it really important? Can a company thrive without having to do all of that nitty-gritty, we have to be this way or be that way? Is it really important? What do you think?
Yes, if you have an organization that you want to grow beyond yourself, you need to, from the onset, define what you guys want to be known for. You know, you go to organizations that don't have a corporate culture, you discover that as years go by, nobody can put their finger on what that company represents. You get? So when you have a company that is deliberate about defining their corporate culture, you have one that in a number of years, 10, 20, 35, even long after the founders have gone, they are still renowned for those set of qualities. You know, so it's about long term. You know, it's about what you want to be, what you want to leave as legacy. You know, and it helps to drive the results of the organization. Aspects of corporate culture help to keep everybody focused on the goal, what is supposed to be achieved by that organization. So that's why it's extremely important to have corporate culture. It helps to drive growth,
Right.
it helps to drive profit, it helps to create brand to a large extent, what you are renowned for, you know, and it helps to keep the members working together, understanding that, look, this is what defines them as a family. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. This definition that you've given is making me think, okay, so what's our corporate culture here? All right, now, where can a person begin, or where should a company begin? When I say company, now I'm talking a founder, I'm talking the management. Where do we begin if we're to look at that for an organization?
Okay, there are certain steps you need to take to build your corporate culture. You first of all have to identify what your core values are. You know,
Okay.
Ask yourself, look, what do you want to represent? What does this company want to represent? You know, do you want to be a company that is known for integrity? Do you want to be a company that is known for service? Do you want to be a company that is known for loyalty to their customers? Do you want a company that is known for speed? You know, it depends on what you want. Do you want a company that has as its core value the ability to deliver as and at when due? You know, and then you now find a way of creating that into a culture. When you're defining, when you're creating company culture, you should have everything about it should be teachable. It shouldn't be something that, you know, just floats around. You must be able to identify them, write them down, tabulate them, or list them, and then teach it to the people. Probably even, you know, have it everywhere so that people can look at and remember that these are the things that the company represents. You know, so that's the first thing. Secondly, you can also find out what are the things that are known about the product or service you're offering.
Okay.
That's another way to help to define your corporate culture. If, for example, you're selling medical products, you want to be known for, generally, medical products world is known for sanitary products. You know, you want precision. You know, you want something that is healthy. You understand? You need to be able to, that's the general attribute of medical product. If it's sportswear, you want one that is attractive, you want one that is people can use and is durable, you want one that represents a country or a brand, all those kind of things. So these are the things, so look at the things that surround your particular product or service. That also helps to define your corporate culture. You need to also ask yourself, okay, in the next couple of years, what do we want to be remembered for? Those are the things that also help you to define what your corporate culture is supposed to be about, what you want to be known for. You get when staff leave your organization, and they go to other organizations, how do you want them to refer to them? This person definitely worked in this organization. It's clear because he has this and this and this as a habit. It's obvious it came from this organization. So those are the kind of questions you need to ask when defining and creating your corporate culture.
So, in other words, you're saying that corporate culture can actually affect things like work ethics.
Yes. That's why you have to identify your core values.
Right.
You know, if your work ethics are some of the things you want people to know you for, you want to be known as people that are, when they create products, the products are precise. You know, you want them to be hardworking. You want people to be known as hardworking individuals. You want them to be known as people that have integrity. You know, you want them to be known as people that when you give them a job to do, they deliver it over and beyond the expectation and on time and in line with your budget. You know, so all those things that are aspects of work ethics are things you need to also incorporate in your corporate culture approach.
Okay, now let's talk about the role that leadership plays. You will agree with me that some people stumbled into business, into setting up their organizations and whatnot. They may not necessarily have all of the knowledge that they require to get things like this executed. What role does leadership generally play when it comes to entrenching a corporate culture in an organization?
Leadership, first of all, has to set out to create corporate culture. Okay. They have to first of all define the corporate culture that they want the organization to have. So that's the first thing. And that's why I mentioned earlier. I said it cannot be haphazard. Leadership has to come out and say, look, there are 7 aspects of our corporate culture, and they have to define them. They can't leave it to the staff to assume what they are. So first of all, leadership has to create and list out the aspects of corporate culture they want the organization to be able to push forward.
Okay.
Secondly, leadership has to be able to communicate it effectively to the people. They have to ensure that in their correspondence with their staff, among the executives, it must be continually emphasized. You know, people need to know that, look, the leadership speaks this language.
Right.
And it helps people to also begin to speak that language, you know.
Okay.
Another thing leadership has to do, leadership has to ensure that they live by example. They need to be able to consistently push forward the narrative that this is our culture. You get, that's one of the things that leadership needs to do. Many organizations, you agree with me, look at leadership as a pointer to how they're supposed to behave, not only in this part of the world, but especially in this part of the world, where we have a lot of strong men in organizations, you know. And if these strong men do not embrace the culture that they tell people to embrace, nobody takes it seriously.
Okay.
You know, so you must be able to, leadership must be able to be deliberate about exemplifying the culture that they're asking the people to, you know, take on. You know, leadership must also be able to, you know, reward. You know,
okay.
You must reward people that are ambassadors of that culture. You must, for example, say at the end of every month or every year, say, look, these people are beyond just producing results. These people are known to represent what this company represents. They are ambassadors of our culture. So these are the things that leadership these are the roles that leadership has to play when it comes to, you know, building the corporate culture of an organization.
In the event that leadership is oblivious of something like corporate culture, and but you can tell that, oh, this individual or these individuals are passionate about their business, want it to grow, what role then can a member of staff play? You know what I mean, where you have a leader who's just concerned about profit, who's not thinking anything else. Okay, where do you see the staff stepping up to say, or the subordinates or whoever stepping up to say, oh, we propose this, we propose that?
See, when you want to entrench culture in an organization, you must have a way of measuring it to know whether it's achieving what you want it to achieve. That's where the staff come in.
Okay.
Employee surveys are very important, you know. Employees must be able to give feedback, you know, on whether what they were asked to do, you know, is actually being done. For example, you say, look, employees must be free to say, look, our management is supposed to be doing this as a culture, but they are not. Leadership must create an environment that enables the staff to express themselves comfortably without feeling that they're going to be punished or anything. That will just kill their desire to have a certain culture in the organization. You must allow the staff to be able to speak, you know, correspondence, feedback, surveys, that this is what was expected, this is what the culture of the organization is, and so and so is not, you know, doing it as they should. You know, so the environment must be created by leadership to allow staff to be able to address these issues when it concerns middle management or even the executives and get them to backtrack. Like I mentioned earlier, leadership from the onset are the ones that define corporate culture.
Yes.
You understand? So when you have a leader that is not doing what they're supposed to do, the staff must be able to feedback and say, look, this is what we're supposed to represent. And when they buy into the culture, the staff no longer see it as something that they're being told to do. They see that these are the things that produce results for them over the years. And when somebody begins to act differently, they know that it's going to eventually affect their bottom line. So they know that if we keep along this trajectory, this company is going to have issues. It's going to affect me, my salary, my family. So it's better I also address it, you know, before it creates a problem for all of us. You know, so when they have a buy-in, everybody sees the culture, which is what culture really is about. It's really about everybody seeing it as part of us, like a family. It's no longer just about what the leaders do or what we do. This is what we do as a family. When one member, like you have in your family, when one member of the family is misbehaving, you call out the family. You don't have to go out to the public and you first call and say, look, if we don't solve this problem in-house, eventually it's going to affect our bottom line. So the environment must be created by the same leadership to allow the staff to be able to feedback, you know, to the leadership that this trajectory is going in the wrong direction and needs to be adjusted.
Okay. With the changing work landscape, with the amazing Generation Z, who have different mindset about work, and so it's more like a clash of generations. The previous generations not understanding how they think and how they operate, and then the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and all the other ones that are yet to come, having a different mindset of how things should work. How do you think we can find some kind of agreement or synergy, if I may use the word, to entrench culture? For instance, we know that modern day workforce, they rather work from home, they rather work from their mobile devices, they don't understand the concept of coming to work 5 days a week or 6. But leadership may not be in tune with that mindset. However, with conflicts like that, how can we wave that aside or weave through it to still establish a corporate culture?
Okay, corporate culture is like the foundation of any organization.
Yes.
You can change how the blocks, I'm an architect, so I talk like this sometimes.
Yes, please.
You can change how the partitions of the building is going to be, but the foundation remains the same. So let's, for example, and that's why corporate culture, like I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons for defining corporate culture is so that it can outlast even the founder. So what that means is that beyond how you live in your time, in generations to come, there might be a Gen Z, a Gen Q, a Gen Alpha, and all of that. And the culture must still be retained. That's why it's a foundation upon which every other thing is built. So the styles might change. They might decide to work you might decide to work remotely, but the culture remains the same. So from the beginning, the people must be. That's why it's important that when you're recruiting people, you must understand the culture. Even your recruitment must be based on the culture. You must be able to say, look, you're coming on this job beyond your skill sets, beyond your education.
Yes.
These are the values. This is the culture of the organization. So from the onset, you already are aware that this is how you're expected to behave in the organization. It's despite your skill sets. This is what is the foundation of this organization. Your skill sets, what's the money we make, your relationship, these are all secondary. The foundation is we value integrity, we are loyal to our customers and to our staff, we don't discriminate against people that are disabled, we are a kind people, we don't do this, we don't do that. That's the culture, So whether you work remotely, you work in the office, you work in a location that is far, or whatever changes that might come in the future, AI might come into it. I'm sure they can even introduce culture in AI. So those are the foundation. So you from the onset, even the people that are coming in years to come or even presently, they are aware that, look, this is what the foundation of this organization is. This is what they are known for. So by coming in here, I have to be ready and willing to, not everybody is going to believe in your culture. So and there are different organizations that have different cultures. You might have, some organizations have a culture where the people are clannish, they are like family, they love, this, There's some that they are very business-like. Everybody's just very corporate. That's the culture, which is also fine. There's one where the people they value results. You understand? It's results-based culture. And everything else is not important, but results and bottom line, which is also fine. So when you're coming into an organization, from the interview process, it must be made clear that this is how we are. And if you get your culture right, what it means is that even before people come to the organization, they already are aware that this organization is known for this kind of behavior. So you're already on your own. You can decide, you can realize that, look, I won't fit into this organization because I will not be able to fit into this culture. And you go to where you're comfortable working in. So there's no clash in the future. And if eventually there's a clash and they say there are sanctions to follow and they say, look, you have not been, because culture should be part of your appraisal. Minus your performing, minus your producing results or getting money for the organization, it must be put in your appraisal, whether you are also following the company culture. Over time, when you realize that you're being sanctioned for not doing this, you're comfortable. You know that from the onset, this was clearly the culture of this organization.
Wow, quite interesting. We'll take a break at this point, and when we return, we would be linking this up to Nigeria. This is Democracy Radio. If we don't talk about our country, what will we talk about? How can we have a corporate culture in Nigeria that takes us from where we are as a people to where we all desire to be? We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's the Power Chat on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM Abuja. And if you're watching us on YouTube, as of course you are, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and please share the video so that your friends and family can learn all about Democracy Radio. We'll be talking about corporate culture right here, and I have architect Walter Okoye, and he's been doing justice to the conversation. However, at this point, we're about to find a way to link it to Nigeria, beyond our traditions and what we regularly call culture in the Nigerian context. How do you think a concept like corporate culture can help us as a people to unify us and to help us be better as a people generally? Because we know that we have some traits as Nigerians that anywhere in the world we go, people say, oh, that definitely is a Nigerian, some good and some negative. Where do we even start from if we were to begin this journey of a corporate culture as a country?
Well, firstly, we are a corporate entity.
Yes.
You know, among ourselves, we might see ourselves as just citizens of our country. But for those that want to do trade with our country, they see us as a corporate entity. And it's important that we also see ourselves as that and begin to, you know, identify and push out our culture as a corporate entity. You know, so we need to we need to be deliberate about what Nigerians represent. We have certain over the years we should have been able to. If you actually look at how we have been over the years, you can identify some traits of Nigerians that are our major selling points. We need to be deliberate about pushing it forward. For example, when you say that in America, Nigerians are the most educated black group in America, that shows that Nigerians are extremely intelligent.
Yes.
You know, we have a knack for education. We have a knack for expertise in whatever we do. We have a knack for being boisterous. Anyone that comes recently in Lagos, they have this Dirty December thing that is being, you know, touted. This is another thing. We are boisterous people. We are people that like celebrating our culture. We like celebrating music. Our music industry is fantastic, same as our movie industry. So we are boisterous as a people. We are also people that are, when it comes to physical work, we're extremely physical. You know, look at our farmlands all over the whole country. We produce some of the best crops in the, you know. So these are things that we are known for, you know. So we need to identify them, like I mentioned earlier for any organization, identify what our core values are. You know, most people have been talking about, they say, look, what defines us as a people? We must be able to specify them. Are there 12 things? Are there 6? Are there 7? Are there 3? Whatever amount we can come up with that defines us as a people, we need to be able to push it out. We need to be able to push it out, you know, because a lot of times when you don't tell your story, somebody else would. People are telling our story for us as Nigerians. They say we are corrupt. They say we are this. We're not even, when it comes to statistics, some of the things we're being accused of, we're not even the worst of. We're not even among the first 10. In those negative things. But because somebody else is telling our story, that seems to be what represents our brand.
Right.
So we need to say to ourselves, what are the things that make Nigerians who we are all over the world? Wherever we go to, what are the things that stand out about us? Our resilience, our drive, our boisterousness, even our loudness, you know, our desire for hard work, education, expertise, desire, and no can-do spirit. We never give up. Those things define us. Our pride, regardless of how battered and unbeaten our green passport is, people still raise those things with pride. We're extremely proud people, you know. So we need to identify those things that make us a people and then push them deliberately. Because, like I said earlier, corporate culture must be deliberate. There must be things that you can identify. You must be able to teach them. They must be measurable. There must be things that, you know, are adaptable. You get so. We need to do that as a people. Once we identify that, then we need to start selling it in everything, from our football, whatever we do that is popular, from our music to our sports to whatever communication we have as a people. We must push it out deliberately, you know, and must do it with the perspective of it being long term. So regardless of the administration that comes in, we still keep pushing the same narrative.
So on whose shoulder would you put this responsibility, the people or the leadership?
Both. When you go to countries that encourage tourism, you discover that countries that tourism drives their income, they are deliberate about teaching the people how to be tourist-friendly people.
Okay.
They know that when people come, they're not going to go to government house. The tourists are going to come to your areas, to the beaches, to go to your hotels, to your restaurants, meet you on the street, enter cabs. So the governments of those nations are deliberate about teaching the people how to be tourist-friendly, which is what we also need to do. So there's an aspect for the government, there's an aspect for the people. Government must be deliberate in their communication, in how they create our brand messages, in how they, when they go out to talk to other world leaders, they must be speaking the same language, and then they must be deliberate about teaching the people about those things that define us, from primary school to secondary school, online. They must be able to make sure that it's part of the things that are being shared. They must be deliberate. You know, the National Orientation Agency is beyond them. They must go into communities, from religious organizations to marketplaces to, and it must be deliberate. It should not be left to chance, you know, to push this narrative that these are the things that define us as Nigerians, this is what our values are, and this is what make us as a people.
All right, the key word for me there is deliberate. We have to be deliberate as a people. And I also like to add that it can also begin from the family, where these values are entrenched in the family. Definitely. And then we go out from there into society, into our workplaces, and generally represent our nation in very good light. Thank you so much, Architect Walter Okoye. It's been quite an interesting conversation. I can't believe how much time has flown, but I am so grateful for the chance to be able to have this conversation with you, and thank you for also opening our eyes to see how this relates to us as Nigerians. So being deliberate with representing your country positively, even up to the extent of entrenching this in our curriculum right from primary school. It'll get us to the place where the Nigerian dream becomes a thing. You know how they say the American dream? We should be able to talk about the Nigerian dream as well, but it's of course not a short trip. It's a long journey. But the best thing they said is a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. We will start our step today. My name is Uju. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this video to all your friends and family. It's been Power Chat on Democracy Radio 104.9 FM. Good day.